Good morning, everyone. I would like to talk about my trip, which was a very successful trip to Jozini and to Eshowe. Of course, Mthethwa teaches us that we must preach only in Durban and Pietermaritzburg, but perhaps he was writing that for a particular space and time. Now it is very difficult to preach in Durban or in Pietermaritzburg because of the problem of criminality and the problem of alcohol abuse. But of course, it is possible to speak politics because even in a place of alcohol, you can still speak politics and still strike a conversation. Uh, I would like to talk about the dangers of travel. When I traveled from Jozini to Eshowe, I saw rivers which I have never seen in large bodies of water and large forests and large sugarcane fields and people walking in places that might have large snakes because of the vegetation, knowing very well that large snakes favor a place that has water and vegetation at particular times. I then discovered that I should have followed the river even by foot if possible, to see if it leads to the sea. Because if that river leads to the sea, and in our geography education, we've not been educated about that river, we know that there are ports, there are harbors, and there is a Suez Canal. So if there is another canal, then there are many canals, the mouths of rivers. But then you ask yourself, how does a boat come in against the current of the river? Because the river is going towards the sea and the boat is going towards the land. How does that happen? How do you build a boat that is able to survive the transition from being in a large body of water to being in a smaller body of water, which has different environment, which might have rocks, which might have crocodiles, which might have hippos, which might even have animals from the sea itself, which can survive in both salty water and in non-salty water. But what I want to really talk about is how security guards are vulnerable in cities, particularly in the old cities, which are Christian or Catholic cities, which have a conception of sin, which have a conception of punishment, and which have a conception of human goodness. But when you walk in these places, you can see that the security guard is alone. And according to what you can see, which of course there might be things that are hidden to you, uh, he is not armed even with a 9 millimeter, even even a toy gun. And there are 5 or 6 women working in the convenience shop, or some working, the shelves. And then you ask yourself, how many men come into this place? And is this single man who has no weapon able to protect these women for the duration of their night shift? It is not only that, even people who work at B&Bs and other establishments might find that they have to deal with people who are lost, they have to deal with people who are high spirited, they have to deal with people who are drunk or people who are abusing drugs. So, how do security personnel deal with those kinds of people? Because you might find that the person that is a security personnel is a chief or a son of a chief or is a son of a king of a particular family or is the incoming king of a particular family. He doesn't even work there. He just saw a situation where women were unguarded and then he decided to guard those women as the chief because that's what the traditional governance and framework act says, that he must administer justice and ensure that there is safety and there is peace in his community. So you never know. I guess that is why Shembe says you must respect every man that you meet because that person might be the king of that place, they might be a nduna of that place because they don't carry any name tags to say what their position is. Of course, that is a risky situation because a person who is an imposter might act as induna when in actual fact they are not induna and do wrong things or change the way that we live, change our culture to a culture which is a culture of damnation, which is not what our grandfathers and our fathers and even ourselves and I'm sure even our children want, because we want peace. In reality, because we know peace is not something that we want as a dream that we've never seen. We have seen peace, we know peace what it is. We know how to go to town, get what you want, go back home and without any incident. We want to do away with the wild, wild west type of living. I guess that is what Garam was talking about when he was talking about the government of killers, to say the wild, wild west was the government of killers. So now, when you are listening to a president who comes from California, that is a wild, wild west product. So you must understand that you are dealing with someone who has a particular history and a particular climate and a particular geography and a particular way of settling issues and settling scores and a particular way of working and living and making a living, even through bounty hunting, meaning that even if he's a president, if you're a wanted person, he can still catch you because you are wanted. He's a bounty hunter, he will get money out of it on the side because you've come to his house and you are a wanted person. So those are some of the issues that really people have to deal with in diplomacy. We'll go back to the issue of al-Bashir perhaps tomorrow morning to say, if the international court says that the person has committed crimes against humanity, crimes that shock the conscience of humankind, so are all people really shocked by what al-Bashir did in Sudan? What did he do? Show us a video of him doing something so that we can be shocked. And then if it doesn't shock us, perhaps we've lost our conscience, or if it doesn't shock us, perhaps it doesn't shock the conscience of human being, but it just teaches us about human nature and how human nature operates and how a president solves problems when he's dealing with rebels who perhaps don't even know what they want, or perhaps know what they want, but they are not well organized and he has won against them because they are not well organized. He's in government and they are in the bush, but he has a helicopter. He can comb the bush and find them, or he can send food to them to feed them because they are hungry. They are not working in the farms. They don't have farms. Even if they have farms in the bush, they don't have enough livestock there because, they have to herd that livestock to look for food for their animals. And then when they are out looking for food, people can see them. People who are living in the civilization that has been agreed upon according to the constitution of that particular country. So I think what should really happen is that students should read the constitution of a country. Of course, reading the Testament as well, reading the Quran if you find time for reading the Quran or any other useful religious book. Since Mrs. Zulu says that we must be ruled by the Bible, which means that he has already chosen that the Holy Bible is the book to read, meaning that the Quran for him is not the book that we should be reading. We should be reading the Holy Bible. Perhaps later on he can give us an order to say now you can read the Quran and then make a comparison between these two religions to say what is religion really and what kind of problems does it solve, and do we have those problems as the municipality or as the ward or as the country or as the continent, and look at how long we've had religion and if religion has actually solved those problems, because we've had some experience. Of course, one might say we have to be patient because God doesn't calculate in the way that we calculate. Perhaps we are being impatient when we are not uh, seeing the results of religion. Because if we are saying that Jesus died for us for our sins, then it means that there is no sin. So now people who it creates a really serious problem, because you can kill someone and then there is no sin because there is no sin. That's what Jesus died for, meaning that it's a kind of government that really can get out of hand if it is not understood in the context of the whole teachings of the Bible itself, not just focusing on the New Testament, but then also looking at the Old Testament. Because remember, in the Old Testament, it says that you shouldn't kill. Shembe says you shouldn't even think about killing. But now, if Jesus has already died for our sins and killing is a sin, but you know he has died for our sins, so you didn't kill anyone. You can think like that. But then there are courts, there's a judicial system which will assess your case, in a semester or in a year or in many years to come, and just looking at why did you do what you do. Not because they want a religious argument from you, they just want a logical explanation. Why did you do what you did? So that is my lecture for tonight. I wish you all the best, and I hope that God prospers you and makes sure that you are protected at all times, and know that things can change any moment, because if two bulls are fighting, of course, they are spectators. Thank you.